Arne Slot isn't exactly known for his flexibility, and considering he's 45 and not exactly in peak shape, we wouldn't expect him to be competing in the gymnastics arena anytime soon. Now, jokes aside, there's no denying that the Dutchman has already started to leave his mark on Liverpool's style of play. We've seen a more patient build-up, sudden bursts of pace, and some clever, unexpected rotations, like when Szoboszlai popped up on the left wing against United. Slot has brought a unique twist to each of Liverpool's first 3 Premier League games this season, showing just how adaptable he can be. It's this flexibility that's got other Premier League clubs on edge when they prepare to face the Reds. In today's video, we'll dive into how Arne Slot has demonstrated his tactical versatility so far this season and break down the different strategies he's used to outsmart his opponents. But before we do get into it, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Liverpool content. Before we dive into what's been happening this season, we need to take a quick step back to the previous campaign and look at some of the struggles that held the Reds back from closing Klopp's final season with another title, alongside the EFL Cup. Now, we know a lot of you probably don't want to relive the underwhelming moments from last season, so don't worry, we'll keep it brief. After all, this video is about the future. We're not going to dwell on the injury crisis that ravaged the squad or the frustrating amount of chances we wasted in the final stretch. Instead, we want to focus on something a little bit different. Remember that unfortunate 3-0 loss to Atalanta in the Europa League? We all recall Gasperini's aggressive man-marking system that completely shut Liverpool down at Anfield. But it wasn't just Atalanta's tactics that led to that result, it was also Liverpool's failure to adapt. Atalanta's relentless pressing caused Liverpool's backline all sorts of problems, forcing them into uncomfortable situations that led to constant turnovers. It felt like the Reds were running out of ideas, a recurring issue, especially during that final part of the season. And let's not forget the games against Crystal Palace and Everton, where Premier League sides also managed to outplay us. It felt like the team had lost its spark, no energy, no creativity, especially during the build-up phase, rotations, and even the pressing structure. Now, we're not saying Klopp didn't have a plan B when things didn't go his way, but it seemed like his tactics had been figured out. Opposing teams not only managed to nullify our attacking threat, but also exploited weaknesses in our defense. And that brings us to the current campaign, where Arne Slot is shaking things up at Anfield, making the Reds far more unpredictable than ever before. As we mentioned earlier, the Dutchman has already left his mark on each of our first Premier League matches, so let's break down what he's done to earn the title of a flexible manager. We kicked off the season with a 2-0 win away against newly promoted Ipswich, and despite what many expected, it wasn't an easy game at all. In the first half, Liverpool controlled possession with 57%, completing 197 passes. But possession alone wasn't enough to create real danger. We only managed 18 final third entries and took just 3 shots, none of which were on target. On the other hand, Ipswich, despite having less possession and fewer completed passes, looked far more dangerous going forward, and that was mainly due to one key factor: physicality and dominance in the duels. McKenna's side won 58% of the first half duels and 64% of their tackles, compared to Liverpool's 40%. After the game, Slot mentioned that there was no point discussing tactics if you can't win your duels. But we want to point out one tactical issue that contributed to our struggles in building up play and taking full advantage of our ball possession. Whether Liverpool set up in a 4-2-4 build-up shape, or when Trent Alexander-Arnold inverted into midfield to form a double pivot, creating a 3-2 shape, Ipswich's relentless high press in a 4-2-4 block forced Liverpool to go long more often than not. This led to frequent turnovers as Ipswich players were simply better at winning those duels. To make things worse, both Trent and Gravenberch were too static behind Ipswich's first pressing line, which only played into the opposition's hands. Another key point that deserves to be mentioned is how Ipswich focused their attacking play with long balls on our right-hand side, where Jarell Quansah struggled to pose his dominance in duels. Thankfully, Slot was quick to react in the second half and addressed these problems. It all began when Arne Slot brung on Ibrahima Konate to replace Quansah. On paper, both players occupied the same position, but it was Konate's abilities, both on and off the ball, that helped resolve Liverpool's two-man issue. Konate might just be the best channel defending centre-back in the world thanks to his pace, physicality, and exceptional game-reading ability. His presence was one of the key reasons Trent Alexander-Arnold was able to play as an inverted fullback last season. Konate provided the crucial cover, and sure enough, as soon as he came on, Ipswich struggled to exploit these transitions. In fact, during During the 45 minutes he played, Konate won 100% of his ground duels and 3 out of 4 aerial duels, but that wasn't all. With Konate locking down the right hand side, Trent had the freedom to roam across the pitch, which allowed Liverpool to progress the ball more effectively and create better goal scoring opportunities. So just 45 minutes into his Premier League season, Slot already demonstrated his ruthless approach to substitutions and his ability to quickly solve problems on the pitch. Now let's move on to a game where Slot changed things up, but this time no thanks to a substitution. This one's against Brentford, where Liverpool finished the first half 1-0 up. But many would say the performance in the first half was a bit underwhelming. Despite keeping 56% possession and completing 230 passes, 72 more than Brentford, the game's tempo was painfully slow. This made it difficult for Liverpool to get the ball into dangerous areas at the right moments. The lack of urgency was why we didn't create many chances, managing just 0.70 xG in the first half, with 0.51 of that coming from Luis Diaz's shot for the opening goal. In fact, that opening goal didn't even come from a well-organised build-up. It was just from a fast break, countering Brentford's corner and exploiting the space they left behind. And when you've got players like Salah, Jota and Diaz, those transitions become deadly. But the second half was a completely different story. The tempo picked up, possession improved, passes flowed more freely, and most importantly, there were way more final third entries. The stats back it up too. Liverpool made 43 final third entries compared to just the 21 in the first half, and completed 100 more passes. The XG shot up to 1.95 in the second 45 minutes alone. If you need proof on how much the tempo shifted, look no further than our second goal. Liverpool rapidly progressed the ball high up the pitch, and our counter-pressing completely overwhelmed Brentford's defence, leading to the goal. From that point on, Liverpool were in full control, threatening the goal multiple times while dominating possession. 2 games down, 1 more to go, and this one might have been our easiest match so far this season, the demolition job against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Here we're going to switch things up. Instead of focusing on how Slot adapted with the ball, we're going to talk about what he did without it. We've all heard the stories about Slot's pressing system being as intense as Jurgen Klopp's famous gegenpressing, but in our 3-0 win over United, it was a different approach. Lining up in a 4-2-4 shape out of possession, Slot's men were more than happy to let Manchester United circulate the ball in their own third during the build-up phase. The first line of press, apart from some minor movement, was also static, allowing Manchester United all of the time and space to circulate the ball in their own half. But here's where things got interesting. Once United stopped passing around at the back and attempted their first progressive pass, that's when Liverpool's second line of pressing, made up of Gravenberch, McAllister, and either Konate or Van Dijk sprang into action. They jumped in to intercept the ball with intensity. The plan was clear: let United build up from the back, but as soon as the ball reached Kobbie Mainoo or Casemiro, Liverpool would pounce, pressing hard and regaining possession. This not only allowed the Reds to win the ball while United's players were pushing forward and leaving space behind, but that static front four was also primed to exploit the situation, ready to capitalise on the break. The first warning shot came with Trent's disallowed goal, and soon after we went on to score twice through Luis Diaz, taking full advantage of United's exposed back line and the open spaces in midfield. The second half continued in the exact same manner, with Liverpool keeping their pressing traps deep in midfield rather than high up the pitch. And that's exactly how our third goal happened, with McAllister bodying Kobbie Mainoo in the middle of the pitch. 3 games and 3 different solutions to not only bring out the best in our players, but also to flip matches on their head and exploit our opponent's weaknesses. Now, even if you are a rival fan watching this, you've got to admit Slot's managerial flexibility is something special. But if you're still not convinced, let us break it down with some simple examples of the different shapes he's used so far this season. And no, we're not even touching on the pre-season games because, honestly, the number of formations Liverpool tested there would leave anyone confused. When it comes to playing with the ball, Liverpool have become completely unpredictable, shifting between different shapes depending on the opposition. From the 4-2-4, with or without Alisson's involvement, to the 3-1-6, Liverpool's build-up play has never been this fluid. But guess what? It doesn't stop there. Without the ball, we've also seen Slot's men adapt to various defensive shapes, from 4-4-2 variations with either a single or a double pivot, to a 4-3-3 and even a 4-1-4-1 formation. Each set setup was tailored to the situation, showing just how flexible and tactically versatile this Liverpool side has become under Slot. Flexibility, fluidity, and adaptability. Call it whatever you like. But one thing's for sure, Arne Slot has proven he can react mid-game and come up with multiple plans to get the best out of his players while exploiting his opponent's weaknesses. And the best part, we're only 3 games into the season. What we've seen so far is just a glimpse of what's hopefully to come. So what do you think? Has Arne Slot earned your confidence after that dominant 3-0 win against United? Or is the jury still out? Does he still need to prove it against tougher opponents to fully win you over? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed today's video, why not hit the old like button and subscribe to the channel for more Liverpool deep dives. Thank you, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Peace.